Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my best of 2021 video and doing this a little bit different than I've done the last 2 years. I'm going to do this in 3 parts this year. I'm going to break it down and try to keep each one a little bit shorter because I was looking at the amount of notes I had. And I was figuring this video could go an hour long and nobody wants to watch an hour of me. So I'm going to break this down into 3 parts. The first part is going to be headphones. The second part, which will probably be a day or two later, will be headphone amps. And then the third part will be DACs and accessories. And hopefully that'll be another day or two later than that. So going to try to squeeze these together pretty close, but break it down into 3 videos so you can watch what you want and not have to sit through the whole thing. The other thing I did want to mention before I started this is my recommendations are the best of what I've actually heard, what I've reviewed. I'm not going to recommend headphones or amps or anything else on other people's opinions, things that I haven't heard. So I'm not saying that these headphones or these amps or whatever are necessarily the best in each price range. I'm just saying that these are my personal favorites in these different price brackets. And, the thing is, I review what is loaned to me for review. I don't have the budget where I can go out and buy a bunch of equipment just to review it, and I don't like the idea of buying things with the intention of returning them because that drops the value, and this hurts, the companies that are selling these things, and then they have to raise the prices on everybody. So I don't want to do that. So basically everything that I've reviewed in about 3.5 years I've been doing this now has been equipment that has been loaned to me. And my recommendations aren't just the things that I have heard this year. Some of these are headphones, amps, whatever that I've heard, that I've reviewed in the last 2 or 3 years, but are still favorites of mine. But if it's not available anymore, I'm probably not going to mention it. There's a couple of items on my list, I think one tonight, that I'm not sure if it's still available, but it might be, so I'm going to go ahead and list it. So these are my personal favorites of things I've actually heard. And I also want to mention a couple of my categories are a little lacking because I just haven't had anything in those categories to review really. One of those would be my best headphone under $100. And the $100 to $249 range. I just haven't had much loaned to me in those categories. It's been more mid-fi and high-end, that sort of things. Also, I don't have anything in what I would consider extreme high-end in the headphone categories tonight. And by extreme high-end, I would say headphones that cost over $4,000. I just haven't had a chance to review anything yet in that category. So, but I will go through what I have reviewed and my recommendations. So tonight's the first part of 3 parts, and I'm just going to cover headphones, and then we'll go on from there. So I'm going to start at the extreme budget end, and my recommendation at an extreme budget or something ideal for kids would be a set of earbuds actually. And I'm not a big fan of earbuds and not really that big a fan of IEMs, but at the very budget end you can get a lot better sound for the money out of IEMs or earbuds. So my extreme budget recommendation is from Venture Electronics, and that would be the Monk Plus earbuds at $5. They actually sound pretty decent, and they sound better than earbuds I've heard, at 2, 3, 4 times that price. So at the extreme budget, that's my recommendation. At the budget, which a little bit higher price of $20, I recommend the Venture Electronics Bonus IE. Those are IEMs. And I haven't really tested or reviewed anything in that same price range to compare, but I do know that I really like the sound of these. They sound as good as any $100 headphone I've heard, and they actually have excellent bass. Good amount and quality of bass. Very clean, tight, and they sound really good to me. And for $20, I doubt that they can be beat. So let's go to actual headphones now. My first category is under $99, and I will be honest, I haven't reviewed a lot of headphones in this category, but I have found one I really like, and that's the Philips SHP 9500, which, as far as I can figure out, currently sells for about $79.99. It's not a bass head headphone. It's a pretty neutral headphone, does have decent bass extension, pretty comfortable, and it's just, to me, it's a very good entry-level audiophile headphone. Going up to the next category, $100 to $249, and once again, this is a category that I just haven't reviewed a lot of headphones. One of my favorite headphones in the $100 range was the Grotto SR80E. Well, that's been discontinued. It's been replaced by the SR80X. I haven't actually heard the SR80X. It sells at $129.99, but my understanding is just an updated and upgraded SR80. And if it sounds anything the same, I do recommend it at that price. Very nice, very clean, very detailed audiophile headphone. Not the last word in bass impact or weight, but it does go pretty low and it does have decent bass. And once again, a very good entry-level audiophile headphone in my opinion. So now I'm jumping up to the $250 to $499 category, and I have a little more experience in this category, and my top recommendation would be the Diva Pro by Hi-Fi Man. It sells at $329. It can be used wired, it can be used through USB. It has its own little connection on it. I have the headphone, I don't have the connection. It's a little clip that goes on it on the left ear cup that has a built-in DAC, headphone amp, and battery. So these can be run with Bluetooth. They can be run from a USB port, run through their own DAC, which is actually an R2R DAC. And then, or they can be used wired, and you can either use a double wire that plugs into both ear cups or a single wire that just plugs into the left ear cup. And just a very versatile headphone that you can do a whole lot, and the sound is really good. And for $329, this is my top recommendation in the $250 to $499 category. I also want to recommend the Hi-Fi Man Sandara. I still think it's a great headphone, and actually, if you're going to use it wired directly from a desktop amp, I actually still prefer the Sandara a little bit over the Diva Pro. I think it scales a little better, and if you use a higher end amp, I think you can get a little more out of the Sandara than you can the Diva. So anyway, that's been on my list before. I still definitely recommend the Sandara as one of the best headphones you can get for the price. Next on my list is something I reviewed this year, the Olo S4R. And the one that I reviewed was it's been updated since I reviewed it. So there is a newer version out, and I'm assuming it's improved. I've heard the sound isn't that much different, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. The current price converted to US dollars is $453.58. That is a closed back, and in my opinion, I did compare it directly to the Hi-Fi Man Sandara, and I think it's a very close competitor with the Sandara, but with a little bit warmer sound and a little bit warmer mid-range and a little bit more weight to the bass. and it is a closed back if that's what you need, for the isolation both in and out. So definitely like that headphone. For people out there that want a little more bass, I know that some people think that the Sandara is a little light on the bass. I can recommend the Meza 99 Classic. That still sells at $309. Not personally my cup of tea. It's a little bit, the mid-range is a little too recessed for me. The bass is a little bit too overemphasized, but a lot of people like this headphone. It's a headphone that is very, very popular, and for people that want more weight to the bass and think the Hi-Fi Man headphones are a little too bright, it's probably a pretty good alternative. And then one other headphone I wanted to mention in this category, and normally it isn't, the Hi-Fi Man HE560. In my personal opinion, it is if you can get it in this price category, and I have seen it sold as low as $299. That would be the V4 version. The one I have is the V2, but I'm assuming that the sound hasn't changed much, and this headphone does need a lot of power, probably twice as much as the Sandara needs, and even quite a bit more than the original, either the Aria V1 or V2. It's a pretty power hungry headphone, but if you can find it for $299, in my personal opinion, it is the best sounding headphone in this category. So jumping up to the next category, $500 to $999. My favorite in that category, without a doubt, is still the LSA HP2. That was made for LSA by Kennerton. It currently sells at $849. It is a dynamic driver, closed back headphone with a very large soundstage for a closed back, extreme clarity, excellent sub bass. Not a bass head headphone. The mid bass, is there, but it's not overemphasized. Very good audiophile headphone in my opinion. Another one is the Kennerton Magni, which is a very similar headphone to the LSA HP2. It's currently sells for $814. It's a little bit warmer, where the LSA HP2 is a little more towards the analytical side. The Magni is a little bit warmer, and it doesn't have quite the sub bass extension, but does still have good sub bass. Another one in that category, which someone that likes a little, I wouldn't call it dark, but it's definitely not a bright headphone. It's kind of a warm, bassy sound. That would be the Dan Clark Audio Aeon 2 Open Back. It's a headphone I reviewed early last year, and it's just a very pleasant, very nice headphone that's pretty forgiving of less than perfect recordings, and just something I really enjoyed. One other headphone in this category I want to mention, and I'm not sure if you can still get it new or not. I know there's some on the used market, and that's the Bear Dynamics T1 second generation. That would be the 600 ohm version. I looked at Bear's website, and they still have it listed on the website, but it said currently not available. So I don't know if they're still building that headphone, if there's going to be any more. But the new version, the third generation, is all the way down to 32 ohms. I haven't heard it, but I've heard from a lot of people it just doesn't sound as good as the 600 ohm version. So anyway, the last price I saw in the 600 ohm second generation was $999. I know a couple of years ago that headphone was selling for more like $699. So if you can still find one of those, it is an excellent headphone in my opinion. Especially matches up extremely well with OTL type tube amps. Jumping up to the next category, $1,000 to $1,999. My number one pick is the new Hi-Fi Man, or new-ish Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth version, the V3. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it because it definitely lost soundstage width compared to the original Aria or the V2 version, and I agree with that. It did lose soundstage width. Not as much in the music. I'm still hearing music pretty far out to both sides, but vocals, both female and male, seem to be a lot narrower and more centered, and it just gives it the feeling, the illusion of a quite a bit smaller soundstage. The reason I'd still recommend this as my favorite headphone in this category is, in my opinion, it has several major improvements over the older Arias, and that would be that it has incredible mid-bass. The Aria always had decent sub-bass extension, but it was kind of light in the mid-bass. And the new Stealth version has much weightier, much punchier, much more dynamic mid-bass that hits hard, and in my opinion the bass is as good as it gets, and it just has excellent mid-bass. Another improvement I see in this is that I thought female vocals on the original Aria, the V1, I thought sounded a little dry, and female vocals in the mid-range in general just have a much richer, warmer sound, but didn't lose any detail at all. And the treble on the Stealth version is just crystal clear, probably as good as I've heard on any headphone anywhere at any price. So that's my top pick in the 1000 to 1999 category. Some other headphones I'd like to mention is you can still get the original Aria. So if that huge sound stage, tons of width, really, really wide sound stage is what you're looking for, it is still available at the same price of $15.99. If Hi-Fi Man could have combined those two headphones and had the sound of the Stealth with the sound stage of the older Aria, it would be definitely at the top of my list of headphones at any price, but it's still a great headphone regardless. I also want to mention a really good deal for a very neutral, just a very good audiophile headphone, and that would be LSA, the HP1, which was made by Kennerton for LSA. That sells at $13.99, and in my opinion, if you're looking for a neutral audiophile headphone, it's light, it's comfortable, it very detailed, and just an excellent headphone for $13.99. LSA also has another headphone that I reviewed, the Diamond, which sells for $19.99, and once again, just a very, I would describe it as neutral, very well balanced, very detailed, nice soundstage, nice imaging, and a very, very good mid-range. Female vocals sound warm and rich, but yet it doesn't give up any detail. Another headphone I really like in that category is the Urzetish Mania, which the current price in US dollars would be $1,358.83, and it's just the bass is emphasized a little bit from neutral, but it's just a very good sounding, very very pleasant but very detailed, just a really nice headphone to listen to. I really enjoy it, and it works with almost any kind of music, and in my opinion it has a very similar sound to the $3,000 Meza Empyrean, but at less than half the price, and it actually has tighter bass. So it doesn't have quite the build quality and the looks of the Aria, but still very nice headphone I like a lot. And then if you're a bass head, Headphone I would pick for you in this category would be the Spirit Torino Super Ligera. It's $1,650. Basically, pretty much about the sound quality of the Hi-Fi Man Aria, but with a ton of bass. It is an open back, but just has huge amounts of very well controlled type bass. And in my opinion, it's a bass head dream come true. Jumping up to the next category, this is what I would consider mid-high end. 2000 to 29.99. I would say my pick in this category would be a headphone that it took me a while to really understand it, and because it wasn't really perfect in any way, but it just had such a great combination of qualities that I just loved it. This is probably one of the hardest headphones for me since I've been doing reviews to send back, because it was loaned to me by one of my viewers, and that's the ZMF Verite Open Back, and that sells for $2,499. You can spend a couple hundred more depending on the wood you type or pick, but anyway, just a extremely pleasant, kind of warm, kind of bassy, not the absolute last word in detail, has kind of a weird sound stage, not a whole lot of width, but a lot of depth, and it goes from in front of me all the way around behind my head. I've never heard a headphone like this before that puts sounds behind my head. I don't know why that happens. Took me a little while to get used to, but once I did, I just really liked it. I really enjoyed that headphone, and excellent for rock, pop, electronic, any kind of music with a little bit of bass. Good sub-bass extension, good mid-bass, and just an overall great headphone, and the build quality and looks are outstanding. Another headphone in that category that I really like is the Urzetish Phobos, and that is a planar magnetic headphone. It currently sells for $2,265.47 in US dollars, and very large headphone, pretty heavy, but surprisingly comfortable for its size and weight, and just very, very good balance of sound. Has good bass, good sub bass, good extension into the treble, very, very detailed, and has a huge soundstage, possibly the largest soundstage I've ever heard. Probably as wide as the original Hi-Fi Man Aria soundstage, but with more depth. Just really like that headphone. Another one I really like in that category would be the Kennerton Woden at $2,624. This is Kennerton's version of it's similar to the LSA Diamond, HP Diamond, which was made by Kennerton. This is an open back, it's planar magnetic, has exceptional detail, very, very wide sound stage, probably that and the Urzetish Phobos and the original Hi-Fi Man Aria are probably the most open sounding headphones that I've heard, but just very, very clear, very detailed. If you want to, when I'm reviewing an amp or a DAC, that's pretty much my go-to headphone just because of the clarity and detail. And then my choice in that category for the bass heads out there, that would be the Spirit Torino Radiante, which is a closed back and the most bassy of the three Spirit Torino headphones I've heard. Currently sells for $2,250 in US dollars, and just tons of bass. I mean, a little bit too much for me. I actually had to EQ the bass down a little bit, but once I did, a very detailed, very enjoyable headphone for me. Once again, a bass head dream come true. Okay, my top category is over $3,000. I'm going to call this upper high end. My number one pick in this category is a headphone I haven't even done my full review on yet. All I've done is my first impressions. That is the Kennerton Ragnar, and that's the plainer version, and currently sells for $3,837 in US dollars, and I just absolutely love this headphone. It does everything right in my opinion. Exceptional sub bass, the best I've ever heard. And then depending on which of 3 different ear pads I used, anywhere from neutral, mid bass, all the way to very solid, emphasized, strong, punchy mid bass. I tried it with 3 different ear pads. The stock ear pad's kind of in the middle. There's another one that I believe comes with it that makes it sound a little more neutral, a little brighter. And then my favorite though is the, it's a tapered ear pad made for the Kennerton Ragnar dynamic version. And it has no perforations, and it adds substantial mid bass to the plainer version. And I just can't stop listening to that headphone. I want to take out every CD I've ever had and listen to it with that headphone, because they sound better than I've ever heard it sound before. And I've never had a headphone do that to me. I mean, usually I get a new, especially a higher end headphone, I want to drag out my best recordings and, listen to things that are going to make the headphone sound really good. The Ragnar sounds so good on its own that I want to pull out every CD that I have, regardless of quality, and listen to it just because the Ragnar makes it sound so good, better than I've ever heard it. So anyway, that is a closed back. It's a plainer. There is now a dynamic version that sells for about half the price. I haven't heard that yet. Hopefully I will someday. But anyway, just an incredible headphone in my opinion. Kennerton also has an open back in the same price category using a similar driver, and that's a Thror that currently sells for $3,767, and that has been my favorite headphone for the last probably almost 3 years, until it was recently dethroned by the Ragnar plainer version. So anyway, but the Thror, it doesn't have the sub bass extension or the weight or punch to the mid bass, but that the Ragnar does. But it is an open back, and it has a little bit larger soundstage, even though the soundstage on the Ragnar is unbelievable for a closed back. The Thror, especially voices, just sound a little bit larger and spread out a little more, and just a little bit more open sounding headphone. I want to give an honorable mention to the Meza Empyrean, which sells right on the $3,000 line. That's retail. You might be able to get it a little bit cheaper. Just a very nice, very pleasant sounding headphone. Exceptional build, exceptional quality, materials. Looks really good. One of the most comfortable headphones I've ever worn. Just very, very pleasant, a little bit bass heavy compared to neutral, a little bit warm compared to neutral. Not the absolute last word in detail, and in my opinion the bass is just a little bit loose on it, but still really nice headphone, and depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for, just ultimate clarity, detail, probably not. But if you're looking for a warmer, little bassy headphone that's a little more forgiving of less than perfect recordings, the Meza Empyrean is a nice headphone. I haven't heard the Elite version of that yet, which sells for $4,000. Hopefully I will someday. And then for the bass head that has kind of an unlimited budget at $3,950, the Spirit Torino Twin Pulse Ragnar is it is an audiophile headphone that will please any bass head. It's just got a huge amount of bass, but very tight, very well controlled bass. And if you've got the money and you want an audiophile quality headphone with exceptional build, and but want some serious bass, that's a headphone for you. So before I wrap this up, this video, I broke down a few categories, a few awards, and this is how those came out. Most versatile headphone. I'm giving that to the Diva Pro from Hi-Fi Man at $329. An excellent sounding headphone, can be used wired, Bluetooth, or USB. Nothing else out there anywhere close to that price that I know of that's going to have that sound quality and that you could do so much with it. Mid-fi pick, best sounding headphone, Hi-Fi Man Sundara at $349. I prefer it a little bit over the Diva Pro if it's hooked up to a good amp wired directly. Upper mid-fi, my choice is the LSA HP2 Ultra. Once again, made by Kennerton, sells for $849, and just an exceptional headphone in my opinion. Closed back, dynamic driver, very large soundstage for a closed back, crystal clear, excellent, exceptional sub bass. My lower high-end pick, the Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth version at $15.99. My mid high-end pick, the ZMF Verite Open Back at $24.99. My upper high-end, that would go to the Kennerton Ragnar planar version at $3,837. Excuse me a second. Been talking for too long, throat's getting dry. And then my last two awards would be my most bang for the buck headphone, and that goes to the Diva Pro from Hi-Fi Man at $329. And then my headphone of the year, this is just my ultimate favorite headphone of any price range. My headphone of the year award goes to the Kennerton Ragnar planar version. Just absolutely love that. And I do have a few headphones here I forgot to show you. This would be the HP2 from LSA, which is my favorite upper mid-fi headphone. And then this is the Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth version, which is my favorite mid-hi-fi, no, I would say lower high-end headphone at $15.99. And then the Kennerton Ragnar that I just gave my Headphone of the Year award to. This is what the Ragnar looks like. It is a closed back. This one is made of stabilized Carillion birch and is just a beautiful headphone. It is lightweight, it's comfortable, and this is my Headphone of the Year. So I will be back in a day or two with part 2 of my best of 2021 video, and that will cover headphone amps and probably headphone amp DAC combinations. And then my part 3 is going to be DACs and accessories. So hopefully you'll come back and watch those too. I'm going to wrap this up now. This got much longer than I had planned. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you are all welcome to join us at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. We were up to almost 15,000 members, so I hope to see you there. Once again, thanks for watching my video.